Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my channel, Kalanati. Today I'm going to do a very quick and last minute TBR for the Owls Readathon in April. I was looking for a month-long readathon in April a little while ago, something that had prompts that would encourage me to pick books off of my unread TBR shelf, and I realized that the Magical Readathon is starting again for the second year. This took BookTube by storm last year with all the owls and the newts, and I didn't really understand what was going on, but now I have read up on it. I've kind of figured out the rules. It's complex enough, I'm not going to try to explain it here, but basically you take your owl exams in April, and then based on the results of that, you take your newts in August. I will link the original announcement video down below. So I aim to pass all 12 subject exams in April because there are career paths now. Like there's a booklet that tells you what subjects you have to pass in both April and August to get to be a certain thing. And I have no idea how much time I'll have for the newts in August, but I figured if I passed all of the exams in April, I could do whatever I wanted to in August. I would be open for all possibilities. So here are the books I've picked out for those prompts. The first one is Ancient Runes. You need to read a book that is a retelling. I have chosen In the Vanishers Palace by Aliette de Bodard. I recently saw this on a list of Beauty and the Beast retellings, so I hope that it actually is. I don't know that much about what the novella is about. The next subject is Arithmancy, and for this you need to read a work written by more than one author. I kept coming up blank on this, and then I got one of my holes in at the library, and it is Alliance Rising, The Hinder Stars Part 1 by C.J. Cherryh and Jane S. Fancher. Yay! 2 authors on the cover, so I'm going to read this one. For Astronomy, the prompt is to read a book with a star in the title, and for this I have chosen Broken Stars, contemporary Chinese science fiction in translation, translated and edited by Ken Liu. Care of Magical Creatures is a book with a land animal on the cover, and the only one I could find is this book. It's Votan and Other Novels by John James, and if you look really closely, there are a couple of wolves on either side here, so I'm going to count this. This is kind of an omnibus of 2 or 3 novels. The first one is called Votan, and that's probably the one that I will read. I would love to finish this entire thing in April because it's been sitting on my shelves for a couple of years now. That may be a bit too ambitious though. Charms is age line, read an adult work. So pretty much anything on my TBR and on my unread shelves would count for this. I chose The Deep by John Crowley because it's a pretty short novel and it's one of the first books that I hauled this year, and I'm trying to read all the books from my January book haul by the end of April. Defense Against the Dark Arts is Reducto, read a book with a title that starts with the letter R. I have chosen, no big surprise here, The Raven Tower by Ann Leckie. This is her first fantasy novel. It's one of my most anticipated books of the year, and I figured I should read it sooner rather than later because I'm trying to avoid other people's reviews of it before I'm able to make up my own mind on it. Divination is a book set in the future, and luckily most of the science fiction on my TBR could probably count for that, but I've actually chosen He, She, and It by Margie Pierce, which is also known as Body of Glass. This is one of the last Arthur C. Clarke Award winners I need to read, and I'm committed to finishing that reading project by the end of this year, hopefully in the second quarter of the year actually. And I will probably end up buddy reading this with Bree over at Bree Reads Books because I think she's worked it into her TBR for this readathon as well. Herbology is to read a book with a plant on the cover, and I have the perfect choice for this. Not only does it have plants on the cover, it's about plants and gardening, and that is The Founding Gardeners by Andrea Wulf. This is about some of the early American presidents, kind of that era, and their gardening. I think a lot of the stuff they were importing or discovering in the US at that time. I actually read the first 1 or 2 chapters of this a long time ago and I loved it. I've loved everything I've read by Andrea Wulf, and I'm sure this will be more of the same. I really enjoy this period of time that she's written about and just the idea as well. It's a pretty interesting part of history. For History of Magic, you need to read a book published at least 10 years ago. Thankfully, once again, I had a lot of choice for this, but I actually ended up choosing a very old book, and that is Dangerous Visions, edited by Harlan Ellison, which was originally published in the 1960s. I figured I needed to get more anthologies or collections in my reading queue because I have a bunch of them stacking up, and it does take longer to read anthologies, especially when they're pretty chunky ones like this. So yeah, this is an extremely famous science fiction fantasy anthology, very highly regarded, and I'm actually really interested in reading it. For Muggle studies, you need to read a contemporary book, and I'm not sure if this is like a book published this year or set in the modern day. So I actually went with Kid Gloves, 9 Months of Careful Chaos by Lucy Knisely. This is kind of a memoir, autobiography, graphic novel, and it just came out and it's set very soon. So it's not a novel, it's nonfiction, but I figured this is as close as I'm going to get for this particular prompt. And for the last two subjects, Potions is Next Ingredient, read a sequel. I have 2 books on my physical TBR that I feel intensely ashamed I haven't gotten to yet, and the one I've chosen is Armistice by Laura Elena Donnelly. This is the sequel to Amberlow, which I loved. I'm sure I will enjoy this. It's kind of like secondary world fantasy without magic. If I want a choice, if for some reason I'm not feeling this one, and I don't know why I wouldn't, the other one that I need to read is Luna Wolf Moon by Ian MacDonald, which is science fiction. So I have choices for this particular one. And the last subject is Transfiguration, read a book with sprayed edges or a red cover. I'm very jealous of other genres and like YA books that get the sprayed edges treatment. I do not own a single book like that, unfortunately. But I do have a book that I need to read that has an intensely red cover, and that is Feersum Endjinn by Iain M. Banks. That is, I think, suitably read for this prompt. And that is it for my Owls Readathon TBR. It's 12 books. I do usually read more than that in a month, so it's very possible I will substitute some of these books with other things if I just want to read what I'm in the mood for, and I will certainly be reading things that don't count for the readathon as well, because I don't know why I always do that. So let me know if you are participating in this readathon. Let me know what you're reading down below. Thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon, and until then, bye.